Rainbow Reflections, Book 2, Put Out the Fire. Chapter 27, On the Razor's Edge. The rain started again soon after the teens had left the school. Sorella's body was still aching, and her eyes were still tired. But her heart felt heaviest of all. It had to be done, she told herself firmly. Ren wouldn't have let us leave. I knew that, and that's why I offered to stand up to her. She'll understand when we come back with the teachers. She'll understand why we had to go. Ren always understands. But will she understand this time? Will she forgive me for what I did? She's going to hate me forever. I'm such a terrible girlfriend, a terrible person. She deserves better than me. She shook herself roughly, returning her focus to the present moment as they trudged through the mud and rain. I have to find the clearing. I need to remember the paths. Sorella pulled one of the butterfly knives from the sheath at her hip, glad she had grabbed the thick blades from the Kung Fu studio before the 14s had exited the school. She slashed a random tree with the blade, marking the path they were taking. Are we going the right way? Zin asked behind her. Yes, she huffed, though she wasn't honestly sure yet. As if to fuel her doubt, two paths appeared in front of her. She came to a halt, observing the trails. One veered to the left, while the other went straight.
Which way do we go from here?
C3 asked, coming to a stop behind her. Sorella looked around for some sort of landmark, her jaw clenching and unclenching as she considered the forest around her. Then she saw a clump of yellow pods off the trail that went straight. That way, she said shortly, pointing at the pods. Sorella led the way, the other three shuffling after her as she took the straight path. But instead of continuing along the trail, she stepped over the pods and into the shadows. She used her knife to slash a mark on another tree as she went. I never should have attacked Wave. Then he never would have taken me and Fern, and we wouldn't be in this mess, Sorella thought dully. But I was foolish. I thought I could take him on, like a Black Sash. But I never would have reached Black Sash this year. And the sash means nothing in the end. I still have so much to learn. And Wave has so much more experience than me. I was a fool to think I could ever master martial arts. And Mimata, she's a spirit. I was traveling with a spirit all that time. What has she been doing to me? Did she do something to me and that's why she wants me back now? Did she possess me in the past? Why would she want to possess me now? To take down the others from the inside? To draw them out of the school? Sorella sighed heavily and shook the thoughts off, knowing that she could not let them distract her from her mission. She persisted through the soggy foliage, marking trees when she remembered. After about 20 minutes of walking, Sorella came to another stop, Zin nearly walking into her. Zin grumbled in annoyance, but Sorella ignored them, frowning around at the land. This part of the forest looked like the rest. Trees, bushes, vines, a few stones. There was nothing too remarkable about it, until she saw a large rock off to the side.
What is it?
C3 asked. We should be coming across the clearing soon, she murmured, pricking her ears. We better be quiet.
Already?
Mint exclaimed in surprise.
What part of be quiet do you not understand?
C3 hissed.
Sorry,
Mint mumbled, Zin snorting in amusement. Silence fell over them as they carried on. The rain pounded away, bouncing off the plants. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and lightning sometimes lit up the sky beyond the canopy. What's that? Zin asked in a low voice. Sorella snapped her gaze up. She followed their line of sight and frowned at the bushes on the left of the path they were following. The berries on the bushes were glowing gold, and she nodded curtly at the sight. We're going the right way, she said, slashing another tree. But what is it? Zin pressed.
Glowing berry bushes,
C3 replied.
They are common in the most...
We don't need a lecture, Sorella huffed. Come on. She approached the bushes and continued past them, the path becoming clearer in her mind with each step. Sorella marked tree after tree until she saw a blue glow through a gap in the trunks. Frowning, she narrowed her eyes, though she already knew where the light was coming from. We're here, she uttered.
We are?
Zin whispered, an eager light shining in their eyes despite the anxious look on their face. "Straight ahead," she grunted. "Mark it on the map." C3 pulled out his mirror and tapped on its surface, opening the map app as Sorella slashed more bark. She then led the way through the undergrowth, C3 and Zin trailing her while a nervous Mint took the rear. A minute later, they reached thick trees covered in slick vines. The trees were pressed tightly against one another, their branches forming a thick, almost impenetrable fence. But Sorella knew the sturdy branches grew thinner the higher they went, leaving more gaps above. "We have to go up and over the branches in order to get in," Sorella uttered to the others.
No, don't go in yet.
Zin hissed, their eyes wide. "I'm not," she stated flatly. "I'm just going to check it out." She stomped her foot, commanding the ground to raise her up. The stone shifted beneath her, and she could soon see over the branches and through a gap between two tree trunks. A shiver went down her spine as her eyes landed on the familiar clearing where she'd been held prisoner. 3 people were tied to 3 thick trees on the right, vines curled tightly around their bodies. Dragon vines. The vines were glowing blue, much more brightly than the berries. Even from a distance, the light was blinding. She narrowed her eyes against the shine, able to make out the figures as Khurshid, Fern, and Aster. But where was Hyaktu? She shifted her attention to the center of the clearing, where the purple watching tree sat. She had almost forgotten all about it, her jaw clenching as she gazed upon the many pink eyes on its trunk. "It's probably looking out for us." Another shiver passed through her as she remembered coming across a similar tree in the wilderness when she had first left the orphanage. "It's looking for me." She forced her eyes away from the tree, to the left, where the ground sloped away out of sight. There appeared to be plenty of glowing mushrooms, which she faintly remembered.
What do you see?
Zin whispered. "The teachers," Sorella hissed, keeping her eyes on the watching tree, wondering if it had spotted her already.
Is Dad there?
Zin asked eagerly, jumping up and down only to end up slipping in the mud. "No," she muttered, sliding off of the small rock she had made. "Not that I can see. Just the teachers in the watching tree."
Now what?
Mint asked in a quiet voice, her shoulders hunched.
We come up with a plan,
C3 said. The rain had finally ebbed by the time they had their plan figured out. Only a light mist floated through the air. A breeze blew through on occasion, bringing the fresh scent of rain and slush with it. Sorella breathed it in deeply, before holding her breath as she lifted the small potion vial to her lips. She then drank the bitter invisibility potion alongside the others, apart from Zin.
I can't see you!
Mint yelped in front of her.
Obviously.
C3's voice grumbled to Sorella's right.
Now keep it down.
I can't see myself either!
Shut up, Sorella growled. It'll make for awkward moving, but it's for the best. Mint moaned softly, her breathing growing rapid. She seemed to be shifting her weight around, as Sorella could hear the clink of vials in her backpack. If Mint messes this up... Sorella sighed in annoyance, wishing Zin hadn't managed to convince the tall girl to join them. You ready? Sorella muttered.
Yeah.
C3 said. Yee! Zin affirmed.
No!
Mint mumbled. I'll go first, Sorella said. She scrambled up the rock she had created, which took a few attempts since she couldn't see where her hands were. Finally managing to get on top, she slid onto the branches. Once she was on the tree, she glanced in the clearing, but still didn't see anyone. The watching tree didn't seem to notice her either. Letting out a sigh of relief, she slipped off the branch and landed in the soft slush below, glad that it wasn't a bunch of squishy mud. She moved aside, waiting to hear the thuds of her companions landing next to her.
I did not see anything,
C3's voice whispered.
Where's the watching tree and the teachers?
How do you not see them? They're right there, Sorella scoffed, trying to keep her voice light. Whatever, just get a move on. A squishy thud told her that C3 had joined her.
Oh, I see them now,
he commented.
So an illusion keeps this place hidden from the outside.
This isn't a time for note-taking, Sorella grumbled as a second plop sounded. Once the third thud came, she whispered, Come on. She moved instantly towards Fern, Zin heading for Khurshid and C3 for Aster. Mint would be the lookout. None of the teachers appeared to be conscious, their heads bowed and their faces dark despite the bright light coming from the dragon vines. Their entire bodies were cocooned, only their heads visible. Sorella could almost feel the vines curling around her again, and she shivered at the thought. Sorella reached Fern and glanced over her shoulder. The hair on the back of her neck prickled, as if she was being watched. Well, of course we're being watched with that tree, she thought. But it feels like there's something else. She couldn't think of that, though. She had to focus on the task ahead. Once they had the teachers back, they'd at least stand a better chance facing any attack. Or maybe not, Sorella reflected, taking a closer look at the sick-looking Fern. These teachers might weigh us down, actually. Is this what Mimeta is hoping for? She forced herself to stop dwelling on it, though she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in the pit of her stomach. She took a deep breath, then felt for the butterfly knife. Locating it, she pulled it out and began sawing at the vines clutching Fern. Zin was borrowing the pocket knife they had gifted to Sorella on Day of the Moon, while C3 used a knife he'd taken from the eating hall. After several minutes, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She gripped her knife tightly and swirled around, ready to stab the attacker. "It's me!" Zin's voice hissed. "Don't stab me, please!" "How'd you know what I was doing?" Sorella grumbled. "You kinda became visible for a moment," Zin said. "Remember, you can't move too fast. I don't think that broke the potion's spell, at least. But the tree might have seen you." They both glanced towards the watching tree, but it was as still as ever, its many eyes staring in multiple directions. "What do you want?" she huffed. "I'm busy. You didn't even kick her shit out. What are you doing?" "If you let me speak," Zin said sarcastically. "I came over to ask what to do now. The knives aren't working." Sorella sighed. "We might need your fire magic to break these." "But the tree will see," Zin protested. "And what if the teachers catch fire too?" "Don't worry about the tree," Sorella said. "Get Miss Oakley out first." "But she looks sick," Zin pointed out. "Kershid doesn't look as bad. We should free him first." "Fine, whatever, just free one," Sorella grumbled. She heard Zin's footsteps padding softly across the slush to the next tree. Sorella inched a bit closer to the middle of the clearing, being sure to keep her distance from the watching tree. She looked up at the branches surrounding them, but didn't see any glinting eyes. A burst of fire suddenly appeared, striking the vines. The orange flames flickered for several moments, then died down and vanished. Sorella tried to ignore the fire and keep her attention on the tree in front of her. The tree blinked several of its eyes, shifting its attention to their direction. Sorella drew both of her butterfly knives at the ready. "I don't know if that'll work," Zin muttered. "I don't think I should keep trying with that tree watching."
C3's
voice suddenly said.
Maybe we need to fight these vines with spirit magic of some sort.
"But we don't know any spirit magic," Sorella huffed.
Technically, we do,
C3 said.
Enchantment magic is practically spirit magic. At least that is my theory, as I do not see much difference between them yet. Of course, I could be wrong, but...
He cleared his throat.
Anyhow, we use a form of spirit magic when enchanting objects in class, though it's not pure spirit magic when it's elemental based. We also use spirit magic when we enchant potions.
"Potions!" Zin said, their voice a bit high. They quieted as they continued. "Mint brought all those potions. Let's see if one of those can break the vines. Mint, get over here."
"Coming!"
Mint yelped. Heavy footsteps crossed the mud as Mint approached. Mint slung her backpack off her shoulders, the bag becoming visible once it lost contact with her. Sorella snapped her gaze to the watching tree, which narrowed its eyes at the backpack. "Is the tree going to send a warning to Mimeta? We better prepare for a fight." She flicked her gaze from the leafless branches above to the mushrooms on the far slope, but nothing stirred in the clearing. "Find anything useful yet?" Sorella asked, her heartbeat quickening as more of the tree's eyes pointed towards them.
"It's hard to see the labels,"
Mint murmured.
"I can't pick them up, or they'll turn invisible."
Sorella sighed. "Go hide behind a tree and make yourself visible, then," she uttered. A moment later, the backpack vanished as Mint picked it up again. She walked off to the left, the backpack reappearing next to the tree holding Kershid. Mint also turned visible, but the thick branches of the vine-covered tree concealed her from the watching tree. Mint shuffled through the pockets for a while, pulling out potions and observing the labels in the vine light. "This is going to take forever," Sorella groaned.
Sorry, but there's a lot of potions in here, and they all do different things and have different ways of working, so we gotta be careful,
Mint said.
Oh, how's about this one?
"What's it do?" Zin asked.
It eats away anything poisonous. Literally eats it. One drop lasts 5 seconds, and you have to pour it drip by drip, but it sounds promising.
"Let's try it," Sorella grumbled.
I don't think those vines are poisonous.
Protested C3. "We need to get a move on," Sorella pointed out. "Mint, keep looking for a potion that can work on those vines. Zin, try any potion she hands you. C3 and I will keep watch." Sorella heard shuffling noises as Zin must have taken the vial from Mint. She heard the bottle pop open and watched a single drop hit the blue vines of Kershid's tree. She stared at the vines expectantly, but nothing happened.
Try this,
Min said after a few moments, holding another vial out to Zin.
It causes explosions.
Explosions? We shouldn't be making loud noises.
C3 said, sounding concerned.
I know the tree might have seen us already, but any noise on top of it.
Okay, I'll keep looking.
Min searched for the next few minutes. Sometimes she'd be on the brink of handing a potion to Zin, just to take it back after reading the label further and realizing it wouldn't work. Zin tried another 2 or 3, all without success. The entire time, the watching tree stared. "What do we do?" Sorella growled in frustration.
Zinimus, try your spirit magic.
C3 said abruptly. "I don't have spirit magic," Zin replied hastily.
"Yes, you do,"
came a raspy voice. Sorella's heart skipped a beat, then she realized that it was Kershid speaking. He was awake. His head was slightly bowed and his eyes appeared to be closed, but he seemed aware of the teens around him. His ears pricked in their direction. "Kershid?" Zin mumbled, shifting closer to the teacher. "Are you okay?" Kershid didn't answer them. He merely murmured,
"You don't have a connection to elemental magic, but to spirit magic."
How do you know that?
Zin queried.
And why would I have spirit magic? I thought it was just, I don't know, enchantment stuff I've been doing?
"It's spirit magic,"
Kershid insisted, his voice growing weaker as his head began to bow forward again.
But why would I have it?
Kershid didn't answer, his breathing becoming deep as he slipped back into unconsciousness. The dragon vines glowed more brightly, as if sapping the remainder of his strength. Sorella shivered at the sight, hoping to never find herself back in the plant's clutch.
It would make sense, actually, considering that you have telepathy.
C3 said to Zin eagerly.
Telepathic communication is a clear connection to spirit magic.
It is? But why didn't I ever know that? Why would I?
"We don't have time for this," Sorella hissed. "Try it out."
Okay, I'll try.
After a moment, C3 asked,
Well, is it working?
It takes a while, you know?
Sorella rolled her eyes, then caught sight of movement to the side. She faced the watching tree again, but it hadn't been the plant that had moved. Gasping, she saw a woman dressed in red on the other side of the clearing, near the pink-spotted mushrooms. "No, you can't be here, not now. We haven't freed a single teacher yet." Mimata was staring straight at the group of teens, but her eyes seemed to be fixed on Sorella, despite Sorella still being invisible. Sorella froze under that red-eyed gaze.
Children have come to play! Yes, play they will!
Mimata laughed, her voice echoing around the clearing. Zin and C3 jumped, their feet slipping on the sludge. Sorella could somehow hear their sharp intakes of breath over the loud pounding of her own heart. Swallowing hard, she forced her feet forward. "I'll deal with her," she uttered to the others. "If you manage to get the teachers out, follow the marked trees back to the school."
Wait, you're gonna fight her?
Mint stammered.
She somehow looks scarier than those spirits that attacked last year.
"Because she is scarier," Sorella thought. "And that's why I must face her, martial arts master or not." Sorella took several more steps, wanting to dart forward and lose her invisibility, but she had to use it to her advantage, even if Mimeta seemed to know where she was. Mimeta approached slowly, taking her time to cross the clearing. Sorella came to a pause near the watching tree in the center, remaining on the higher part of the slope. She glanced over her shoulder, wondering if Zin was making any progress with the vines. To her great surprise, they had managed to free Kershid. The dragon vines had retreated up the tree, no longer glowing so brightly. Mint caught Kershid as the tall man fell forward, but he was soon awake and able to stand on his own shaky legs. Sorella nodded to herself, glad they were finally making progress. She scanned the undergrowth around them once more, but it seemed Mimeta had come alone. Finally, the woman was only a few feet away. She lifted her double broadswords, a strange smile on her lips. Sorella had no doubt that the woman could see her, if her drumming heart didn't give her away. Figuring she might as well be able to see where she was aiming, Sorella released the invisibility by charging forward. She reached Mimeta, able to see her knives flashing through the air at last, but Mimeta knew she was coming and easily dodged the blows Sorella threw.
You cannot win, no!
Mimeta cackled. Sorella ignored her, slipping on the ice as she turned back to face her opponent. She charged forward again, thrusting her knives. Mimeta moved off to the side, not bothering to block Sorella's strikes with her swords. Sorella threw herself at Mimeta, swinging both blades for her opponent's chest, but the woman easily stepped to the side without having to block either knife. She moves fast, Sorella realized, and she's able to predict my moves with me charging in like that. I'm too sloppy. Changing strategies, Sorella decided to fake running in at Mimeta. The woman dodged to one side, like Sorella figured she would, and Sorella moved with her. She hacked her knife at Mimeta, and Mimeta was finally forced to block the blow.
Naughty child, naughty!
Mimeta cried, the smile falling from her lips. Sorella shut off her emotions and thoughts. She could only focus on the fight at hand. She didn't realize that Zin had freed the other two teachers at this point, all teens now visible as they made their escape. Mimeta hung back, waiting for Sorella to strike again. Sorella ran forward, but this time in a zigzag way rather than direct. Mimeta stumbled backwards as Sorella hacked both knives at the woman's head, Mimeta barely managing to block the strikes with the broadswords crossed in front of her. What, do you not know how to use your own weapons? Sorella hissed through her teeth. Mimeta managed to shove Sorella off, and Sorella tumbled backwards. She skidded to a stop in her tracks before she could completely fall over, glaring at the tall blacksmith. If Mimeta doesn't know how to use her weapons, this should be an easy fight, Sorella realized. She rammed herself forward, Mimeta forced to block or otherwise lose an arm. Sorella kept pushing her backwards, Mimeta's form getting sloppier and sloppier. Finally, Sorella managed to shove Mimeta to the ground, the woman losing one of her broadswords as she went. Sorella kicked the sword away and held one of her knives above the woman's throat. Mimeta gazed up at Sorella in wonder, her red eyes no longer so amused. What now? Sorella wondered, the silence seeming to press on the two figures in the center of the clearing. I can't kill her, can I? Am I a killer? But if I don't do it, she'll haunt me. She'll capture us all. And those vines... Sorella remembered the teachers. Snapping her gaze up to see that her friends and all three teachers were gone, she risked glancing around the clearing quickly to make sure that they had all made it out. She then focused her attention back on Mimeta. Tell me where Aktu Sai Han is being held, Sorella growled, knowing she mispronounced his first name. Mimeta narrowed her eyes and made no reply. Tell me or I'll kill you, Sorella seethed, a shiver running down her spine.
No,
Mimeta said.
You won't do that, no! You need me. I'm family, yes. You rely on me.
No, I do not, Sorella spat. I hate you. You're not family to me. Not at all.
You have me, yes, or you have nothing,
Mimeta said, the smile returning to her lips.
You won't kill me, no.
I don't need you, growled Sorella, pressing the knife closer to Mimeta's throat until it touched her skin. I found a real family, unlike you. I found people who actually care about me, who love me. The image of Ren, Zin, and Hyaktu appeared in Sorella's mind, and she realized that she meant every word. Though she had denied being a part of the Sai Han family the previous year, She finally comprehended that they were her family. Of course, Sorella did not see Ren or Zin as her siblings, but they didn't need to be siblings in order to be family. I've been so blind, Sorella realized, closing her eyes momentarily. I've had a family this whole time. They love me and look out for me despite all of my mistakes. She shook herself from her thoughts, opening her eyes to glare down at Mimita once more. Tell me where he is, she repeated. But Mimita didn't answer. Tell me, Sorella hissed, leaning forward, or you're dead. The woman did nothing but sit on the wet mud and stare at Sorella, misery in the depths of her eyes. Sorella frowned at this, then shook herself. Fine, if you're not going to tell me, she seethed. I have no choice but to kill you. She pressed her knife firmly against Mimita's exposed neck, drawing blood. Sorella, no! She nearly dropped her knife in surprise, swiveling around at the yell. Hyaktu was rushing towards her from the left side of the clearing. Sorella could only stare at his muddy figure in awe. Mimita took that moment to make her escape. She clutched her bleeding neck as she hurried away up the slope. No! Sorella growled. Enough! Hyaktu muttered, grabbing her wrist before she could move after the woman. You've already wounded her. So? Sorella spat, tears sliding down her cheeks. There's no need to spill more blood, he said solemnly. Let's get out of here. Sorella glared down at him for a moment, then switched her gaze back to Mimita. The woman was clambering up the vine-covered trees, quickly vanishing over the branches. And for the record, you always have a choice, Hyaktu told her firmly. She focused back on him, then collapsed to the ground, the bloody knives falling from her grasp. Sobs racked her body, unstoppable. Hyaktu seemed taken aback as he crouched beside her. He reached out as if making to hug her, but then he put a hand on her shaking shoulder instead. What's wrong with me? Sorella sobbed. I was going to kill her. I'm a murderer. No, you're not, Hyaktu said. You were caught up in the moment, thinking you had no choice but to put an end to her. Yet there are other ways to conquer our fears, without destruction. Sorella continued to cry and shake her head. Then she reached forward and hugged Hyaktu herself. He returned the hug after a small hesitation, allowing her to sob into his tattered sweater. I'll never be free from her. It's going to be okay, Sorella, Hyaktu said gently. But we've got to get out of here. Are you fit enough to walk? Sorella pulled away, blushing beneath her tear-stained cheeks. Yes, she choked out. Are Zin or Ren here with you? What happened? Hyaktu asked, helping her to her feet. Sorella wiped the tears from her face, keeping her gaze on the ground, unable to look at Hyaktu or the daggers. Zin, C3, Mint, she managed to croak. Free teachers. Ren at school. Let's find the others and leave. Come on. You're fine? Sorella mumbled. Hyaktu nodded. I managed to break out of the dragon vines on my own, but Wave attacked. I fought him off, then ended up here. And if we don't hurry, he or Kaokat will surely be back. He glanced over his shoulder, as if expecting an attack. Sorella reached down for the knives instinctively, her body becoming tense as she eyed the clearing. But only the plants remained around them. Sorella led the way to the spot where she and the other teens had entered. She waited for Hyaktu to stand next to her, then stomped the ground wordlessly. The rock beneath the mud lifted them up, allowing them to get over the branches and onto the other side. This way, Sorella grunted. Hyaktu followed her without question, Sorella not needing the scratch marks on the trees to find her way. They walked in silence, the only sound that of their footsteps on the slushy mud and the occasional sniffle from Sorella. After several minutes, she came to a stop in her tracks. She could hear something. It sounded like heavy footsteps plodding through mud, and it was getting louder. She swiveled towards the direction of the sound, her knives up in front of her at the ready. She scanned the gray world, squinting her eyes against the misty air. There! A large shape was headed straight towards them. The person crashed into Hyaktu, pummeling him to the ground. Sorella hopped out of the way as mud went flying in all directions. She lowered her knives as she realized it was just Jabali. Jabali? Hyaktu sputtered. Where do you come from? Before the other man could respond, he continued. Wait, is nobody at the school? I had to come for ya. Jabali said seriously, getting to his feet and pulling Hyaktu up with him. Hyaktu shook his head several times. But the students, the school, they're all unprotected.
No, the enchantments are up.
Jabali replied.
And I told all of them students to call their parents to get them, so the school year can just be done with.
What? Hyaktu shrieked in a high voice. He blinked several times, then grumbled, We have to get back to the school at once.
Wait, what are you doing out here, Sarala?
Jabali asked with a frown, turning to her as if he'd noticed her for the first time. We came to rescue the teachers, she said curtly.
We?
Zen, C3, and Mint, Hyaktu replied. They freed the teachers and got away, so they should be fine if they stay together. Hopefully we'll run into them on the way back, but we must get back to the school.
Then what are we waiting for?
Jabali stomped the ground, lifting it beneath the trio. Sorella nearly fell off and quickly crouched to maintain her balance, the knife scraping against the stone. She scowled at the bloody blades for a moment, a nauseous feeling in the pit of her stomach. Without even thinking of what she was doing, Sorella cast the knives aside, the weapons landing in some bushes nearby with a soft thud. Hyaktu watched her actions, but said nothing. Her hands were now free to press against the rock near her shoes. The stone shifted beneath her touch and locked her feet in place, so she wouldn't fall off. She then did the same with her hands, tapping the boulder until it locked her wrists down. Jabali did the same with his feet and Hyaktu's, then grinned broadly.
Y'all ready?
Let's get this over with, Hyaktu muttered. Jabali slammed his fist down, and the boulder went flying forward. Though Sorella's hands and feet were glued to the rock, she still felt like she was going to fall off. The air seemed to rush through her face, throwing her hair backwards. Her ears went numb, her nose became as cold as the frost around them. She clenched her jaw, her whole body rigid like the rock beneath her. The boulder crashed into trees, smashed through bushes, bumped into other stones. Mud, snow, leaves, branches, and pine cones flew at them, Sorella tucking her head to avoid being injured. The boulder did not slow once, Jabali somehow maintaining focus and strength to keep the rock jetting over the land, faster than a boat. A few minutes later, the stone slid to a halt. She glanced up timidly to see that they had made it to the school. The moat Ren had created still flowed tirelessly around the large buildings. Sorella glanced around for the purple-haired girl, but nobody stood outside the school, nor in the entrance hall. Maybe it's a good thing she's not here, actually, Sorella thought, remembering back to her attack. I hope she doesn't hate me. Please don't hate me, Ren. Sorella sighed and released her grip on the boulder as Jabali hopped away. She broke the stone covering her shoes, then slid off as well. Hyaktu joined them a moment later, his eyes closed and a grimace on his face.
Hyaktu hates some rock rides.
Jabali chuckled to Sorella. I can see why, she replied faintly, her stomach churning unpleasantly. Let's see if the others made it back yet, Hyaktu muttered, approaching the moat. He led the way, nearly stumbling to the ground several times as he appeared to be dizzy. Jabali finally put his large hands on Hyaktu's shoulders to keep him planted, guiding him to the river. Sorella followed, her legs throbbing. The trio reached the water, but before they could cross, the ground lifted in front of them. Water flew in all directions, Sorella barely managing to hold her breath as it splashed over them. The liquid quickly receded, flowing down the slope and into the forest they'd come from. Ah, Hyaktu, you've returned! The three glanced behind them at the sly voice. A cat stood only meters away, watching them from the undergrowth in amusement. But the cat was like no farm cat Sorella had ever seen. They were jet black and outlined in bright green, only having eyes and a mouth drawn on their face. A bit farther away, Wave stood, his reddish hair pulled back in a messy bun and his moss-colored eyes glaring.
Oh, Wave!
Jabali called, waving.
I hope you don't mind that I've broken up with you. Please don't take offense as I name you Worst Boyfriend of the Year.
Sorella scowled. Now's not the time for such nonsense.
As if I'd even want to date some bumbling idiots like you.
Wave sneered. Jabali snorted.
I'd rather be a bumbling idiot than dating some spy for Kaokat who hurts children and ruins my best friend's life.
Wave narrowed his eyes.
Clearly, you care more about your best friend than you ever did for me. You didn't even stick up for me. You turned on me at once.
I wonder why.
Jubali said sarcastically.
At least I know I can trust Hyaktu, unlike you sneaky little...
Enough, Hyaktu grumbled to Jubali. We all know Wave is the one responsible for everything going wrong this year. This game is over. Kaokat flicked their bushy tail, the jagged grin never leaving their face.
That's what you think, but the fun will only just be starting.
What's that supposed to mean? Hyaktu snapped, taking a step forward as his hands curled into fists at his sides.
You're too late, darling,
Kaokat said, their smile, which was already abnormally large, somehow stretching wider until it reached their eyes.
Too late.
I'm not late, Hyaktu growled. The enchantments are still here to keep you out, and now that I'm back, you won't ever get in.
Too late,
Kaokat kept chortling.
Too late.
For what? He asked in annoyance.
The government is here, Wave sniggered, and I wasn't even the one to call them this time.
No, Hyaktu breathed. The cat threw their head back and laughed, their mouth widening more.
Where are you gonna run to, Hyaktu,
Nowhere, that's where, Wave chuckled. He turned and ran off into the shadowy forest, while Kaokat continued to laugh. Jubali's body tensed and he rushed forward, but Hyaktu held him back from charging after his ex. In the next moment, Kaokat vanished on the spot, their voice still echoing around the trio.
Wherever you go, I'll find you.
Sorala's hands clenched into fists at her sides.
Oh, shut up already.
She made to move forward, but before she could do anything, the earth shook violently. The three were knocked off their feet as the giant stone blocking their way to the school became part of the ground once more, splashing mud and water in all directions. Sorala waited for the rumbling to be over before she glanced up, able to see the entrance hall again. 3 figures stood within the broken doorway, gazing outside quietly. 2 of the people were tall, wearing silk robes with elaborate patterns reeking of wealth. Sorala's jaw clenched at the sight of them, but the tension only spread through her body as she stiffened at the sight of the third person, Ren. Sorala's mouth went dry. The purple-haired girl was glaring at Sorala, her angular eyes narrowed even further behind her glasses. She hates me. She actually hates me now. It's happened. Sorala realized, her heart sinking. She hates me so much. But Ren was soon switching her gaze to her father, the anger in her purple eyes vanishing at once to be replaced by concern. She stepped forward as if ready to run out to her father, but the government officials were quicker. The agents blocked the doorway, one of them grabbing Ren's wrist to hold her back. She glanced up at the agent, biting her bottom lip uncertainly. Hyaktu Sai-hon, one of the people said in a cool voice. The school is officially shut down.